Hello, my friends, and welcome to a brand new episode of Discourse in Magic. My name is Jonah Babbins, and in this episode, we sit down with Luke Dancy. Luke is a performer, creator, consultant, and the social media strategist for Murphy's Magic. What that means is you see him every Wednesday interviewing live on Facebook and YouTube the magicians that are creating the magic that you see today. In this episode, we dive into subjects like what magic releasing is like for the creator, what it's like for the consumer, and a topic that Luke is passionate about, which is exposure online, what's wrong with it, and maybe where things should go. This was a lovely episode with a lot to learn, and I think you're going to love it as much as I did. Here it is, a wonderful time with the one and only Luke Dancy. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Discourse in Magic. My name is Jonah Babbins, and we are here with the one and only Luke Dancy. Luke, how are you?
Hey, what's shaking, man? How we doing?
I am doing super well. Very nice to chat with you. You know, there's certain people in the world of magic who have been on my radar for eternity. You know, I feel like I've always seen you in videos on magic everywhere. So it's really, really nice to sit down with you and chat. And like we kind of joked a little bit before we pressed record, because you do these live videos with Murphy's Magic all the time, I think there is no one who spends an hour a week talking about magic, you know, the way that you and I do. We're the only two. Not really, but pretty close. So really excited to be able to cross paths like this and dive into it with you. So let's start at the very beginning. How did you get started in magic? How'd you catch the bug?
It was definitely David Copperfield on television. He back in the day, he was doing the pretty much yearly specials, like the big ones with the big stunts or the big illusion at the end. I was 8 years old and I saw him on TV, and ever since then I've been a magician. It's been a hot minute now that I've been doing this stuff. It's all thanks to David.
You know what? For me also, it's, you know, very much thanks to David and watching his VHS tapes over and over again. So that clicks with me. Talk to me about how you continued the journey and how you started to dive deeper into magic resources.
Yeah, you know, a lot of it was dabbling at first and then realizing that this was something I really took serious. And funny story, I was 8 when I started and kind of got the bug, but it was when I turned 13 that I found out that my great grandfather in Michigan, who I'd never met, was actually a magician. So I guess technically it's in my blood. So yeah, I started going, to the magic shops. I had my mom take me to the one in Charlotte, which is where I'm originally from, the North Carolina area. Started doing that and absorbing as much information as I could. And then I started going to conventions. As a kid, I think I started going to my first convention around 15 or 16. Very first big one was the National SAM convention in Milwaukee. And it was like eye-opening to me. And I really saw how important it was to be surrounded by the people that were the masters, and that still are the masters in our art, to study from them firsthand and to attend the lectures and all this stuff. It was infectious, such a amazing experience to go to a convention like that. And that's when I became very, very serious about studying, reading books, people recommended, and of course, meeting more magicians at other conventions. I really started to befriend a lot of people in the community by going to these conventions, not just the people lecturing and performing, but the dealers, the people that were there on that side, who were still my friends to this day. I just got back from Blackpool, and I'm still seeing friends that I met when I was a kid. These guys are now my friends, which is really cool. So it's kind of become this community thing for me where I dove in and I've never gotten out. I guess that's the best way to put it.
I can relate to that. And I think I agree. There's something really profound that happens when you go to your first magic convention and just go like, oh my goodness, it's not just me in my bedroom, there's lots of us. Like, it's an amazing experience. Talk to me about your direction then into the world of magic as a career. Were you performing magician? What was your kind of direction there?
So I definitely started out as a performer, again, back in Charlotte. I was doing some corporate work, and I was doing it every weekend, 2 nights a week. It was this high-end sushi restaurant where even now when I go back home, they still take good care of me and they still love seeing magic. I've been out in Vegas for 11 years and I go back and they still want to see magic. So yeah, it was definitely starting to do that on a more regular basis, which of course kind of morphs into me creating my own magic and having a testing ground for it every week and seeing what works and doesn't work firsthand. And also, as you probably know, and a lot of you guys know, that when you're out there performing on a regular basis, you really polish up your chops really, really quick. So that was kind of the lineage with that. And I miss it. I miss it a lot, but I definitely don't mind doing what I do these days, but I definitely miss the performing side of things because I don't do it much these days.
I kind of wish upon any magician who is really getting into this that opportunity to like just do too much performing, like to do like so many hours of performing back to back, week over week. There's nothing that has made me sharper in any magic. And it seems like a lot of the pros that we know today were formed by having these kind of early gigs that are just lots of performing, either hours or every week or something like that, where they really get to dive in. Help me understand how the journey continued from there. You're performing a lot. You started creating magic. Where did you go from there?
It's kind of serendipitous because, as I mentioned before, I attended these conventions, and I started attending them more and more as I hit my late teens, early 20s. One of the guys that I met was kind of really, really plugged into the community. He still is. His name's Tim Trano. And Tim has always just been a very good ally for me. I've never wanted anything from him, but he's always just been a great friend. He's just been a really good person in the magic community. And so it got to the point where Tim and I started seeing each other more and more at conventions. And it came to the point where he was like, hey, if you would you ever want to do any consulting? Is that something you would ever be interested in doing? Because I know that David Blaine and Criss Angel right now are looking for some fresh blood, some of the new guys on the scene. And he's like, if you could choose, like, just tell me, who would you pick? And I'm like, honestly, I'd pick Criss Angel just because of the fact that he was doing a series. He was doing, magic on TV every single week and not just a one-off special every couple of years. And that didn't excite me. What excited me was doing it a lot. Even as a kid, I never wanted to be the next Copperfield because, we didn't have Blaine when I was super young. I didn't want to be a famous magician. I wanted to be the guy behind the scenes. I always wanted to be like the Chris Kinner figure, the guy helping out the guy. And so basically I think it was a Friday night, and I got a phone call, on my own flip phone, saw a number I didn't recognize, let it go. And then I got a call on the house phone, and it was Criss Angel. It was Chris. And he's like, hey man, I've heard about you. I really excited to talk to you. You have a few minutes. So we talked for a little bit. Long story short, he said, here's what I'm looking for. I'll call you back in a week. And I just want to see if we're on the same page as far as what I'm looking for and what you can offer. And I went to work over the next week creating a lot of ideas for him. He called back the next week. We had about an hour phone call, and he said, I want you in Vegas ASAP. That was kind of the start of everything, was the phone call that it was unexpected, but I was always ready for the opportunity. And that's the part I'm the most proud of, because even when I got to Vegas for the meeting with a couple other guys that are great friends of mine, even now to this day, he said, bring a notebook. I had like 20 ideas. I showed up with 60. This is what I was ready for. I was ready for the spot. I wasn't gonna lose this. I was gonna go for it. I was gonna get it. Everything kind of worked out from there. So yeah, that was the start of Vegas.
It's so cool that you get that work in, you get to really plug into the community, and then all of a sudden you get a phone call that kind of changes everything, and you get catapulted into the world of like TV magic, as we know it now. And some of the people, like you said, David Blaine and Criss Angel, that's kind of the stuff that really shaped what we now know as like magic on TV, magic for videos, like all of that was kind of shaped then and there. Help me understand the timeline. How old were you and how long had you been doing magic when you got that call?
So I was 27 when I got the call. And I do want to say one other thing before I keep going down the Criss Angel path here, because there was someone else that was very influential and helped me get a blip on the radar too, which was David Regal. As I was performing in my early 20s, I was a member of the Second Deal website, which is a members only website. I started posting videos of my work, and David Regal saw it and out of the blue asked if I'd like to do a project. And so he fully funded the whole thing. It was just my card magic using double-sided tape. It was called Magic for the Eyes. And that was kind of my first real opportunity. So without me going much further, I wouldn't have gotten that chance without David's help. So I don't want to pass him by. So much love to David Regal too. But yeah, I was 27 at the time when I got the call from Criss Angel. And it was kind of fun because we did a season 4, and I lived in the Luxor for 6 months, and we did the whole season there. And then at the end of that season, we were in New Orleans shooting an amazing episode, and he took me out to dinner and with his manager, and he said, hey, I really like you. Would you consider moving out to Las Vegas full time and working for me, full time? And of course I was ready to do that. I had nothing to hold me back. And that was kind of what made me take the jump. So, I was 27, 28, and then it was just, into my early 30s, just, side by side with Criss, just 7 years of good times. Every time we see each other, we say, oh man, I miss the old times, because those are some good times doing TV and just traveling and all that. And I got an education in a way most people will just never get because you don't get it unless you're there. Not just with TV, but with magic and illusions and just the team of people we got to work with was crazy. I'm so thankful for it. And I let him know that all the time. It was such a beautiful time. Hopefully one day we'll do it again.
It's incredible and how foundational, like I said, that was to like TV magic and just the kind of stuff that we even see coming up now. And it's funny that you mentioned the Second Deal Forum, because that's one of those forums where so many people who are quite important figures in our magic community today, they mentioned that was a place where they hung out, and that was a place where they got some magic kicks off and got to share and work with each other and work together. So a real funny other origin place for a lot of the important names in magic today.
Oh, it was great. I love it. And I miss it a lot.
Talk to me a little bit about what it was exactly that you were doing with Criss Angel. Today, many people want to say they are, bill themselves as like magic advisors. Whether they are or not, I don't care. But it means a lot of different things. Sometimes it might just mean give me notes on your show. Sometimes it might mean like create tricks for me to perform. It could mean anything. So back then when that was still being created, I'm sure that the role of the magician on a set might be different maybe than it was now, or might have really developed. And, that was early in the world of lots of episodes of magic happening on TV. So can you talk a little bit about what it was that you were doing there?
Yeah. And I want to say something before I get started. It's a real shame these days that with social media, people can pop that in their bio and act like they've actually done it. And I think that that's kind of pathetic that people will take the jump because they can be anybody they want to be online. And I think that unless you've actually been there, you might want to think twice about putting that on your bio, because the people that know, and they know you haven't done shit. So yeah, a lot of it, of course, the general consensus with consulting is creating new tricks, new material, taking either coexisting plots or thoughts and refreshing them and making them new or fresh for the performer. I like to think I have a pretty good knack for taking magic and putting it into context. And I think that's what makes me different from a lot of people, is that I can take a trick and use the same method, but plug it into a place that will make sense for the performer. And I'll give you a great example. When I first got the audition to come out, instead of going out and partying in Vegas, which most people would do, I went through the casino with a notebook and I took notes of all the places that Criss would go. And I looked at all the things that were in those places and figured, what could I do with that? If he were to walk by this, could we do this? Because you got to remember, when our production office was in the hotel, it was fair game. We could do whatever we wanted in that place, and that was a lot of fun. So that's one side of it, is to create the material. The other part of it is definitely being hands-on on set and ready for anything, because there's two important things when it comes to TV magic. One is that there's a timeline. There's a real crunch. TV cameras, producers, sound people, all this stuff costs money, and you do not have infinite money we'll just do it tomorrow. You have hard deadlines because, again, there's money involved. And with Criss, it got even more difficult because he started doing his live show with the Luxor, and he had a real hard out because he had to be on stage. So a lot of it, too, involves you being on set, being ready to pivot. If one trick's not working, you got to switch and do another one. If something messes up, you got to be quick on your hands and fix it ASAP. There is no, we'll do it again. You got to do it now. So a lot of it is being kind of crafty and in the moment and being under stress. I'm not gonna lie to you, man. A lot of people glorify this consulting stuff. It's a lot of fun, but it's very, very stressful. It's very time consuming. When we were doing Mind Freak season 4 in particular, I was doing 6-day weeks. We had Sundays off. So we had, a lot of work. It was a lot of fun. But I think the reality of it is that it's a lot of hard work, a lot of time, and you're really going to be stressed out. And you need to learn to wear a lot of hats as well. So that's something that a lot of people think is, I just have to invent the trick and everything happens by itself. You will not last long at all if you think that's the case, because that's just not how it works. It's a very stressful, quick moving environment where sometimes you shoot one trick and you got to be ready to go to another location and shoot it right away. So yeah, it's a very fast paced and quick moving thing that's out there. And again, consulting is something that anyone could say they do.
Just to touch one more thing on working with Criss Angel and working on that show, many of the challenges that we see or saw or were innovated in TV magic are some of the similar challenges that we see right now on Instagram and YouTube and different things like that, people talking about stooges or camera cuts or different things. And some of it is using creativity. Some of it is making sure people don't think that's going on and trying to bring the moment out to the masses. Can you share a little bit about working with those challenges?
I'm going to be totally honest with you, man. One thing that magicians need to realize is those shows are not for them. TV magic is not for magicians. It's not. Like, it's just not. So that's the number one thing that people should realize and look through it with that lens, that this form of entertainment, it's not meant for them. If you want to be fooled and you want to watch good magic, go to FISM. Go to like a legit place where people are doing like the kind of magic that they want to see. That's not to say that the stuff that they see on TV is not as respectable, because I think a lot of people, they will use the shortcut as an answer that, oh, it's on TV, it just has to be this, or this. And they couldn't be further from the truth. That's the lazy answer. That's the easy answer. And so people just automatically chalk it up to, oh, it just must be that. When it comes to a TV show, people also have to realize it's a TV show. And there are people cutting stuff in the editing bays that sometimes we will work our ass off to do a trick live only for it to be cut. Let's say that there's like a trick being performed, and at the moment where something's about to happen, that we have it fully covered, they switch to the shot of like a wide shot, and people think, oh, they switched to that shot because they had to. The reality is, a lot of times that's not the truth at all. It's just the fact that when they're cutting a show, they're going to be cutting to a lot of different angles and a lot of different spots. And that is just the lazy answer that, oh, that's why they did that. It's not true. It's just not true. And that's one very frustrating thing of doing this type of stuff, is that it's just the lazy answer. It's unfortunate because it's just not the case. We put a lot of work in to doing this stuff live, to fool the people that are there. And especially, it's even more frustrating when you're doing a series. When it's a one-off special, I feel like a lot of the magic should be at a certain level for that. But when you're doing a TV series, the magic has to be at a high level all the time. There can't be any lulls. It's a lot of magic. So it's definitely a different level, I feel like. And that's one thing I've never understood, why people don't get that in the community. They feel like, oh, like if you've consulted here, you're better than the guy that consulted here. And a lot of times it's like, wow, okay, I've probably created a lot more, but I'm just on the other side. So I guess people just want to assume this or that. It doesn't bother me at all, because I really do love what I do. And that's what it's all about for me. But yeah, keep in mind, again, TV magic is not for magicians. End of sentence. I mean, that's it.
That's a great lens to think about it in, and to settle a lot of the arguments and debates. Help me continue on with the timeline. You were out in Vegas, the show wrapped up, and now you have a unique set of magic skills. What did you do with it? How'd you start continuing in your magic career?
Like I said, I was with Criss for 7 years, so I did a total of 4 seasons with him, including Mind Freak and another show, and some other projects. I helped develop his magic kits, TV commercial that he did for his kit. I did some other projects with him, and also the live show. I helped out with the live show. I would go and take notes and help him out with the live show and rehearsals and stuff. So yeah, that ended in around 2013, and I started doing more online stuff, online marketing. I actually started up my own company, because along the path of consulting for Criss, I kind of morphed into a producer and a director role, where I would call the shots with the camera team. But I also ended up doing Criss's online social media stuff. So I had meetings, and I would sit in with Cirque du Soleil, and I started to get yet another education, which was Cirque du Soleil marketing. And I saw that, and my eyes opened up and went, wow, I could take what I do as a magician, and I could start doing these like experiential marketing campaigns for major brands. And my affiliation with Cirque and Criss certainly opened up some doors for me. So that's what I started morphing into doing. And it was a lot of fun. I plugged myself into the tech scene, the entrepreneur scene here in Vegas. It's a lot of fun. But here and there, magic people kept coming back. They went, hey, look, we love to work with you. We love to do this. And I released some products along the way as well, which is something I've done for a long time. I can't believe my first trick are at least 20 years ago. So I was doing some of that too, and more networking. And then it came to the point where I popped up at Magic Live one year. And one of my good friends is Titanus. There was nothing going on at the time, but he said, hey, if we ever had an open spot here, would you ever want to work over here at Murphy's? And I went, yeah, it'd be great. Like, I think it'd be a lot of fun. When that door opened, I pretty much just walked right through it. And that's kind of where I'm at now, is working with the world's biggest magic distribution company in the world, Magic and playing cards. And it's pretty rad. I get to work remotely. I connect with people online weekly. Like you mentioned earlier, I do these live streams, and I'm starting to do them more often, but definitely doing more of those. And it's fun to interview and chat with these people and to help out the other magicians that are out there, connect the dots as far as the new tricks that these people are creating. Are they good? Are they not? And just to help them in other ways too as magicians, because that's one of my favorite things about the internet is that we can all connect with each other in a very easy way now. And it's kind of up to us if we use it for good. It's kind of like the old Spider-Man thing. So I feel like a lot of people abuse it, and that's another story. But I feel like if you see it for what it is, which is you can really connect with people, that is a beautiful thing. And as magicians, I think it's even better. I mean, I don't know when our paths would have crossed if it weren't for the internet. I'm sure they would have, but it's hard to say when if it weren't for this.
It's really incredible now to see what's going on with Murphy's, and you do the social media strategy, but you're also kind of the face of a lot of the Murphy's stuff that goes on, which is awesome because it's like I said, it's a person who I've kind of seen and heard in the world of magic for many years. It's not someone who I've never heard of, or it's you who shows up there, and it's Luke Dancy, so it's quite lovely. And I'm sure there's a lot of fun aspects that come having that sort of role, and I want to dive into some advice and also some fun aspects of what it is that you're doing. So you see a lot of magic coming through the pipeline. What makes, in a 2020 world, what makes a good magic release?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's sad, to be honest with you, that I don't get excited more often. And I think that's one thing that's unfortunate, is that because there is so much stuff coming out. And again, it's because of the ease of it. We've got cell phones you can shoot a video on. You can edit on your phone. I mean, it's just too easy. So anybody can release anything. But what makes a good release is something that, and these are my opinions, so don't hold me, to all these details here. But to me, what I've seen from my own stuff that sold really well, Skycap in particular, was a Paul Harris release that I did with him. And I think Paul has kind of like the secret ingredient to a lot of it, and that is a toy factor. You get this gimmick that is something that you can look at and play with, and that you probably can't make yourself because there's been some plastic molding or injection stuff going on, or it's they're toys, but they work for you. And a lot of the stuff it's well made. I'm not a fan of the stuff that you have to make yourself. That's just my own preference. I think that something that people get that they can start using right away is a huge plus. Visual, I think, is a word that a lot of people will tell you, especially because people don't want to just perform stuff for quote unquote real people. They also want to be able to perform it online on Instagram or YouTube or Facebook or wherever. And obviously visual wins, short, quick, and visual. But I do think that for something to be a good seller, if it's just a trick that you're going to use and it breaks, people will talk. People will know, oh, it's just a piece of crap. So if you find something that meets all the criteria, where it's well made, it's got a gimmicky kind of toy factor that people can play with, and they go, wow, that's cool, but also something that's visual and it's not too hard to do, I think that checks a lot of the boxes on what works today. And it's interesting to me, really, because when I was first starting Magic, the stuff that you would buy were like the books and the DVDs that were projects with multiple effects. And it's really surprising to me that the marketplace mentality now is like a one-trick wonder. Basically, you can buy one trick, and that's going to satisfy people. I'm surprised that it's gotten to that, because you used to be able to get 8 tricks on a project for like $40. Now you buy one trick for $40, and it's definitely changed. But yeah, those are definitely a few of the things that help move stuff. And obviously, if you're a creator, if you actually use the stuff, it shows at the end of the day too. So if you're just creating to create, people can pretty much see right through that.
Obviously, there's benefits and challenges to the way that Magic comes out today. One of the benefits is that, when someone releases a book, there might be only a page and a half of ideas on something, whereas if someone releases a trick, you might have 3 hours of notes on how to perform the trick and how to do it and tested experience. Some of the challenges that come from it, though, is that, we've seen certain styles of Magic or certain Magic props become incredibly popular for everyone, and then maybe drop off the scene, or different things like that. And sometimes there's trends happening in Magic, which I think move faster based on this, like you said, one trick at a time thing going on. Do you want to touch or comment on that a little bit?
I remember when David Blaine hit the scene. I don't know if you remember this or not, but there was a flood of people trying to produce these self levitations on the market. That was like the thing, and then for a hot minute it was the torn and restored card, when Yves Demerig and Danny Garcia and these guys, and, were starting to produce torn and restored. It was like the thing. And I think right now it's like Rubik's Cube stuff. I think, it's like Rubik's Cube. So yeah, it's definitely a trend, but you also touched on something else that I think people should understand too when it comes to producing and releasing stuff, is that the shelf life, unfortunately, has become shorter and shorter. So while there's these different plots, these different things that are hot, flavor of the week, things like Rubik's Cubes and torn and restored cards, the market it's really volatile right now, because it's like, just like the rest of the world, information, people process information and they want the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. And unfortunately, Magic is kind of that way now too. So if you're thinking about releasing something, just keep in mind that you may work for a long time on a trick for it to be popular for a week, maybe a month if you're lucky. And then it kind of goes from there. Because I know you were talking about things kind of coming in and out of popularity, and that's just the beast of the market now. And it's not the case for everything, but the majority of stuff that comes out, unless it's like a shit hot banger, if it's a banger of a trick, like that'll have legs and that'll continue. But the majority of stuff that comes out, it's like it hits the market. And then once the next flavor of the week comes out, it's like that's old news. And as a creator, it's disheartening, but it's the reality of it, and it does exist.
Totally. You get to see that kind of thing happen like up close, especially with the launches. And I'm sure the excitement for a launch might last longer than the launch itself potentially, right? Like, oh, I'm so excited to share this with the world, There it is, drops, and a month later there's some other stuff filling those spots.
Yeah, and that's part of why I do like doing the live streams that I do, is because as a creator, I want to be able to maximize the exposure for the creator and the product. And to be totally transparent, when I first started working with Murphy's about 4 years ago, they never asked me to do this stuff. I love broadcasting. I love doing live streaming. It's just something I've just naturally gravitated towards, and I love the tech side of it, and it's just fun to me. So the fact that I could bring that to the table, where it's not just a release that you're going to get, you're actually going to get a chance to talk to the person that's invented it and ask them questions and find out about it. So the creator gets the exposure. It gives the product release more exposure, because it's not just, here's the trailer, it's out. Maybe the trailer will come out and then I'll do the interview like a week later. So the people, they get like this extra bump. So it's my way to kind of help the community, not just from the outside to help people make buying decisions, but also from the inside to help my friends feel like they're important and that their material matters. And I'm pretty proud that I've been able to bring that to the table and to do that for my friends, because I think it's important.
Yeah, it's a great addition. And, I've tuned into quite a few of them. You got questions about tricks. Obviously, there's some limitations with Magic trailers because you can only show so much. And it's great to be able to say like, hey, are the batteries going to run out on this thing? It's like, no, there's no batteries, man. That kind of thing is really valuable for the world of Magic, where there still has to be a little bit of secrecy in releasing, but you can kind of field questions and let people feel more comfortable with their potential purchases.
Yep. I think it's important, man. We should all be educated in our buying decisions, for sure.
I want to touch on the At the Table lectures, because it's a really awesome environment. I mean, for you get a one-on-one lecture every week or whatever, but it's a really cool environment to bridge these Magic lectures that people can now do in their own home and learn some of other people's materials, maybe not their one-off releases, but what would be a lecture. One of the big exciting things about this podcast, one of the reasons it started, is I realized that I was real fortunate to live in Toronto and be surrounded by amazing magicians and have great people come through town. But there's loads of people, as you know, that live nowhere near big Magic cities, and a Magic lecture is unheard of to them. So this is a real opportunity to bridge that gap and make it possible for people to indulge in what a Magic lecture is. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I think that they definitely ran their course. I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but we pulled the plug on doing them at the beginning of 2020.
I didn't know that.
We definitely made the rounds with the people that were out there. We definitely, I think, personally speaking, and this is not Murphy's Luke talking, this is me talking as a magician, I think it was the best bang for your buck in Magic. You get like...
It's like $5 for 3 hours of...
It's insane. And they are still out there. They're available in digital form. Obviously, they're not going to just vanish. They'll be out there. So if you've bought them, don't worry. Your dealer should still have them available on the library and all that. But Murphy's is just, it was definitely a tough decision. But honestly, They took a lot of logistic planning as far as the travel to getting people in and out, the time that because, a lot of people don't realize this. Murphy's has two main facilities in Rancho Cordova, California. One of them obviously is the warehouse and the corporate offices. So that's where a lot of when the magic shops buy their products, Murphy ships them out from the warehouse, which is, that's and we have a whole sales team and buyers. And, we've got like 60 people total that work in our company, which is pretty cool. But then we have a second building, which is about 5 miles away from that. And that's our studio. And that's where we film a lot of the trailers and, the instructional parts to the tricks and stuff like that. We do the photo shoots and stuff there too. And our team was just being pulled when you pull too hard on something, it starts to fray, and I feel like our team was being stretched a little bit too far. It wasn't my executive decision, don't get me wrong, but I think at the end of the day, our focus was being split to where we couldn't focus on getting to the products that we were trying to develop and produce for people and really do that. At the tables were kind of eating into that, because not only did we have to schedule people in and book them and shoot it, they also had to edit them and do the write-ups, the ad copy, the packaging when we did the DVDs. And it's just a lot of work. It just seemed like we could probably put that work and time into better things. And I think that was why we made the decision. So I'm proud that I had a chance to host a few of them, including your friend Ben Trains. But yeah, unfortunately, we've decided not to do those anymore. And but the good thing is they still exist out there. So there's plenty to choose from.
And you did a good job of cataloging some amazing people. So there's lots to still indulge, and that's part of the negative of the internet of things coming out is the short shelf life. But part of the positive is that it does always exist there. So if you're someone who tries to not subscribe to the trick being popular for a week, and instead you do your own research and your own digging, it exists there to find and to enjoy and indulge in.
Yep, you're absolutely right.
I want to talk a little bit about exposure in the world of magic and the world of YouTube magic specifically. This is a real complicated subject because there's lots of ways to learn magic online. There's people who shouldn't be teaching it in the right places, and there's people who shouldn't be teaching it in the wrong places. There's people who should be teaching it in the wrong, and so on and so on. So I'd love to know what your feelings are about it, because I know you've been quite vocal about exposure in the past.
To be blunt with you, I'm just not a fan of it. I feel like when people now it's two-sided, right? If you are a creator and you have your own material, that belongs to you and you can share it. Unfortunately, I would say the majority of the people that are online we'll just use the tutorials as an example, the YouTube tutorials, they're flat out sharing other people's work. And in the real world, when you take something and you make money from it that doesn't belong to you, that's theft. And I'm not here to be the magic police, whatever. But I feel like the people that are out there, it's a problem in two ways mainly. One is because you're taking something that doesn't belong to you, and you're doing it with ill intention, which is to selfishly get views, subscribers, and honestly to monetize, which equals money at the end of the day. So that's pretty shitty. Number two, you're setting a terrible example. I feel like a lot of the guys that are now kind of at the front of the ship that are driving these ships forward are people that are setting terrible examples that don't really have anything behind them to back it up. The guys that are kind of looked at as the leaders in that, I don't know what they've done in the industry that makes them the type of people that think that they should do that, minus a few exceptions. Jay Sankey's out there doing his thing. I feel like we're in good hands with Jay Sankey. But there's a lot of people that it's a very selfish thing, and I like to think of them as bottom feeders. They're the people that can't create their own content, that's what's backwards to me, is that you're going to call yourself a content creator, but the content that you're creating is not yours. So it's like, it's so backwards to me that you're making a living off of other people's work. Like, how can you look at yourself in the mirror and feel good about that? Like, I don't know, man. Like, I don't do that, and I won't do that, and I don't support it. But I'm certainly not going to run around the internet, being Mr. Magic Police. Like, it's pointless, because the people that are going to do it are going to do it. That doesn't mean that I have to agree with it. But there is another side to the magic scene that none of that exists. And I call that the real work. Those are the people that are the good guys, the guys that really care about the art. So if you're listening to this and you're someone that's like thinking that that's the only way forward, it's not. There are definitely other people and other ways to interact with the community. And I think also I've tried my best to help a few of these people And I think I opened their eyes because I run a magic group on Facebook for magicians. It's a private group. And there was a guy that started sharing his tutorial YouTube links on the page. And I was like, dude, that's not cool. Like, you shouldn't. And I'm like, here's the problem with this. You're sharing a link to a video that you could have just shared the information here with the magicians. So if the video, in his words, was to help magicians, then why are you putting it on YouTube and then sharing a link for people to have to go somewhere else to watch it? Just upload the damn video there. And I feel like that's the double-sided edge to me, is that people that really want to help other magicians, there's a way to do it. It's called make your videos unlisted. If you're going to go on Facebook or Instagram and do your swipe ups and all that, then you have a link, make it unlisted. And that way you're helping and sharing your information with other magicians, but you're not making it seen by the world. And that's, as Peter Griffin says on Family Guy, what really grinds my gears is when you start looking deeper at the tags that people use on these tutorial videos. It shows exactly what their intentions are. It's to be seen by the masses. It's to be seen posting tags that are relevant or not relevant to magic. The word tutorial, a lot of people probably know this already. It's one of the biggest things you can do on YouTube. So what do people do? Oh, let me attach magic to that. And now they've got this audience of people that don't give a shit about them. They just give a shit about what they're sharing. And I've seen a lot of my friends try to do this, and we're still friends, but I look at their videos and I'm like, dude, your vlog videos get X number of views, your tutorial videos get significantly more. There's a reason for that. They don't care about you. They care about what you're giving them. To me, it's just a messed up world that a lot of people are confused about. They're blinded by it. There are other options out there. If you really want to help other magicians, there's ways to do it without making it public so the rest of the world could see how this stuff is done. Because again, this is material, this is content that doesn't belong to them. So it's not theirs to share.
If someone is sharing content that belongs to them, a la Jay Sankey, but maybe someone newer is creating their own tricks or doing some of their own stuff, do you think it's still improper, or do you think that it's okay for those people to start sharing in those ways?
Well, unfortunately, the people that are going to be beginners, they think that what they're creating is their own stuff. And that's what's terrible. I had a great chat recently with Garrett Thomas on one of my live streams, and he made a great point. He says that, Magician X can go online and post a video doing Garrett Thomas's ring thing and maybe even teach it. But they learned it incorrectly because they didn't really learn it from the source. They reverse engineered it, and then they're teaching it incorrectly. So the information that they're spreading is basically like a messed up game of telephone. It's messed up. So I feel like, that type of information in general is just, I don't think that people should be sharing what people want from us as magicians, which is our secrets. And that's not me trying to sell like an old guy here. I'm 40 years old, but I do live and breathe in the online space. And I'm really confused by a lot of what I see. And even Shin Lim, who's been leading the way, he and I have had some very honest chats with each other. And he's even started to adapt his ways because he didn't realize that what he was doing probably wasn't the right thing to be doing anymore. And I'm not going to speak for him at all, but he's out there leading the way. I think when he realized he hit the masses, that he didn't have to do what he did before, which was just try to sell magic to magicians. Like he's a superstar now. I'm rambling on this topic, but I think it's an important topic.
But it's a complicated and important topic right now.
Yeah, and I think the other thing to say to people that are listening to this is that just because you see other people doing it doesn't mean that it's cool. Just because you see other people doing it doesn't mean that you should do it. And that is something I'm seeing more and more of. And I think it's really interesting because as magicians, our job is to be different because we're all doing the same shit. We're all doing the same tricks. But magicians are the quickest people to imitate each other. And just because you see these people doing it doesn't mean that that's maybe what you should be doing too. So, if you want to be just another guy asking for smash the like button and all that, I mean, that's your prerogative, but man, there's such a better world of magic out there for you if you just want to look for it.
My last question about this subject has to do with where people are searching for magic. And you said it that, a big part of YouTube is that if someone wants to learn something, they just type in that word and then tutorial followed by it on YouTube. So one of the worries or potential challenges that I have to this is that if the great people aren't sharing things on YouTube, then it's going to be left with the people who shouldn't be teaching it there when people undoubtedly search for so-and-so tutorial. So do you have any thoughts on that kind of paradox of not wanting to be there and then leaving the people that shouldn't be there?
I mean, it's a gateway drug. I mean, if people are going to stumble across, some Joe Schmo, Magic Guy 42's YouTube channel, let's be honest, he's probably not going to be doing that forever anyway, because it's just like, it's a thing. He's going to do it, realize he's not going to make the money he thought he was going to make doing it, and he's going to have to realize, oh, I have to get a real job and I have to grow up. Like, I see this as a trend that personally, I don't think it's going to be something that continues. But if people stumble across stuff by the wrong people, then hopefully those people, they have an interest in magic and they will end up finding the rest of the stuff out there, maybe through other videos that pop up. I don't know. Like, that's the problem, is that a lot of these people doing tutorials are doing it on purpose to show up after other videos. And that's, to me, that's you're just a bottom feeder. Like, you're making money off of other people's stuff.
Yeah.
None of us really know what's going to happen here. I certainly hope that the YouTube trend does start to fade out.
I'd like to go back and talk a little bit more on releasing advice, or some advice for magicians trying to share their magic with the world. We kind of spoke about what is big or interesting in the world of magic now from the consumer side, and from what kind of stuff gets the most excitement, like things that are like toys, things that are well made, fun to play with. But I'd like to touch on what it's like for a magician who is thinking about releasing their effect, whether it be, the nth version of an effect that exists already, or whether it's something completely new and unique and has never been seen before. What kind of advice would you have for a magician looking to release and share their magic with the world?
Yeah, I've got some good highlights for you. And the reason I do, I'll give myself a little plug here. At the Blackpool Magic Convention, if you guys don't know, it's the world's biggest magic convention. This year there were 5,000 magicians. I hosted 5 different talks. And one of the topics was this. It was releasing material on the market and kind of like what the reality is. And it was a Q&A session. So I had me and some friends that do this stuff answering questions from the crowd. So I'm going to remember some of their highlights and try to share them here. One of them definitely was that the market is flooded. And that's something that people need to realize, is that you may have recreated the wheel because the market is so flooded. But the most important tip is, don't let that sway you. A lot of people they spend time, they come up with this trick and they find out it's not theirs, and they give up, they quit. It's going to happen. So that's number one. Just realize that kind of shit's going to happen and it's not going to stop. Like, it's just the way that things are. Now, when it comes to specifics, definitely when you submit something to a company, they do want to see a video of the trick. It doesn't have to be a trailer. It doesn't have to have music and special effects and After Effects. It doesn't have to any of that. It's just see the trick. And then number 2, have a workable method. I think that's something that, I mean, yeah, you're laughing, but it's stupid that we even have to say it. It's really stupid. People submit tricks and they expect the producer to fill in the blanks, and it does not work that way. I do want to make it known that I'm not on the product development side of Murphy's. That's our team, Titanus and George Tesaro. They head up that, but I try to bring them stuff that I like when I see it as, potential product releases, but have a workable method. You may not be able to fully produce it yourself if it needs, plastic injection molding and all this, it's got to be a specially manufactured thing. I get it, but at least have a prototype to show them this is how it would work. And I think that's something a lot of people think, oh, I have this great idea here. From a producer standpoint, guys, this stuff's not going to make you rich. It's not going to make you, rich to the point where you're just going to be able to kick back and invent magic and sell it all day. There's a reason why the guys that are predominantly doing that are also doing other things to supplement their income, like magic consulting. And some of them take jobs outside of that, or performing. Obviously, gigs pay the bills too. So keep that in mind. It seems like a super sexy thing to do. Is there money there? Yeah. But, when you get into the mindset of inventing magic tricks to sell on the market, the quality of your products is going to dip very quickly, because to keep up with the demand and to keep up the amount of money you need to live on that, I mean, good luck. I don't know a lot of people that can do that and do it consistently just on creating magic.
And like you mentioned, there's a likely a short shelf life to it.
Well, that too. And it's very disheartening. Trust me. I mean, I've got tricks I've worked on for 10 plus years I've never released because I know as soon as I do, it's old news. Like it's just it's the reality of that marketplace now, and it's a shame. Now, again, there are exceptions to the rule. If you're looking to get into this and you're thinking, oh, I'm going to release a trick and I'm going to be magic famous. That's what I like to call it, hashtag magic famous, because you go to a magic convention and people want to take their pictures with you and they want to say hello, and you walk out the door, no one knows who the hell these people are.
Right.
It's
nobody cares again.
Yeah, it's magic famous, but it doesn't last. Now, unless you have longevity in the industry, that may happen over time, but you releasing a trick on the market is not going to make you someone that everyone's going to know who you are. And that's, again, another unfortunate reason people want to release stuff these days is I feel like that's a wrong reason to do it. And that's one of them because they see other people do it. And again, imitating what they see is cool. They want to do it too. And a lot of the submissions that come into Murphy's, they're not very good. They're not well thought out. It's a quick idea of a thing just because they want to get something rushed out to the market, and it just doesn't work that way. So it's a slow process too. A lot of people submit stuff and it takes time for the company to produce it and to release it. So don't expect to give someone a trick and have it out the next day. It's a reality. But it's a fun process, and I can't think of anything as a magician other than doing gigs and building a career out of that. I can't think of anything more proud than to see your trick either on the shelf of a magic shop or at a convention, someone's demoing the trick that you've created for other magicians. That appreciation among your peers is pretty rad. It's pretty cool. But don't think that that's something that's just going to last unless you continue to create and continue to produce. But again, if you're only doing it for the money, then those tricks, I'm sure they're just not going to stay at that level of where you were at when you came out. And one last thing I'll say on that is that the magic industry remembers everything. We are a very small industry. And so if you put out a banger, people will notice. If you put out a stinker, people will notice. And if you don't do your crediting and you put out something that's someone else's trick, people will talk, and you will have started out on the wrong foot, and good luck getting back on the other one.
So if it's not for the money and it's not for the magic fame, why release magic?
I have a very simple answer to that. For me, anyway, it was to see a trick come to life that I could have never made come to life myself. Skycap is a great example. I had to team up with Paul Harris on that because he has the production capacity to make almost anything. He has R&D people and tools, devices, these machines to do this crazy stuff. So for me, it was, I want to have something that I can use and do myself. But in order for me to do it, it's very expensive.
Got to make 100,000 of something to get the one that's.
Well, yeah, because it's very expensive. For instance, something like Skycap, to get injection molding done, to get that mold and to get it all done, that's a very expensive thing just up front to be able to make it. So unless you're going to produce a lot to recoup your costs, there's really not much of a way to do it and have it make sense when it comes to how much money you're spending on that. So for me, that trick in particular was, I really want to do this. Here's how it works. I can't do it myself. Let's do it. Oh my God, you did it. And then we did it even better when we put out the 2.0 version. And it's continued to be one of the best sellers out there. Very proud of that. But for me, that was why. And also sometimes on the other side of the coin, people will release material to protect the material. When you spend a lot of time creating something, you want to make sure that you're the one that gets the credit for it. So some people will just release stuff because in our industry, if you guys are new to this, it's kind of a gentleman's agreement where if someone puts something out, you don't put something out like that, exactly like that. If you do, then you have permission from the original creator. Maybe there's a new handling, a new method to it, but you've taught to the original guy or gal and you are good to go. You're cleared to go. But unfortunately, a lot of people are missing that now too, but that's besides the point. So yeah, protecting your material. The old saying was, if you want to protect an idea or a trick, you put it in print. You put it in a magazine or a book, it protects it. Now I feel like if you want to protect it on a bigger scale, you really need to release it on the market. If it's a good trick, it's a solid trick, and it's not a piece of shit that you never do. Like, it needs to be something that you actually use and something that's good. You don't want to just put something out just to put it out either. It needs to be good, or it should be. So for me too, some of the stuff I put out was just to protect the ideas And that's why, honestly, man, I've been sitting on this one thing for like a long, long time. It makes me nervous that I haven't put it out just because of the fact that I hope to God no one else does, because that would suck.
And with that, we are getting towards the wrap-up questions of the episode. So each episode has some wrap-up questions where we ask the same thing to every single guest. So we will start with the endless chain. In order to keep the podcast going on for eternity, each guest is asked to recommend another guest that absolutely must be on the show. There's one caveat and one challenge. The caveat is that you have to be able to put us in contact. You can't just say David Copperfield. And the challenge is there are now over 200 episodes, so it's going to be harder and harder to find people that have not been on the show. Who do you think would be fantastic to be featured on one of these episodes?
One of my favorite people pops to mind, Ryan Schlutz. I don't know if you've had him on.
He would be fabulous. What a great idea.
Yeah, Ryan is a great friend. We were hanging out at Blackpool. He was there lecturing this year. He's a wealth of knowledge and a kick-ass guy. So yes, Ryan Schlutz.
The next section, I feel like we have touched on a little bit, but it would be nice to get into a little bit one more time, is about the world of modern magic. What's one thing going on in the world of 2020 magic that you really like, and one thing going on in the world of 2020 magic that you do not like?
Yeah, again, definitely the internet and the connectivity that we can all connect, chat with each other. And it goes back as well to our topic on creating magic and releasing it. You know, if you're looking to get some of those credits that are out there, if you're looking to get help to find out if something exists, you've got social media, you've got forums, you've got magic forums, you've got the information's out there and the people are out there for you to contact each other. On the flip side, the thing that makes me a little bit, I don't know if the word's nervous or concerned, just is social media too. Because again, there's ways to use stuff and there's ways to abuse stuff. And I feel like a lot of people now are so focused on prematurely trying to become something in the industry that they're not putting in the work first. They're skipping the work to grab their phone or their camera to shoot a video to get likes and views and exposure, not exposure from revealing stuff, but getting attention and accolades and stuff. And I feel like even some of the people that I've talked to that are in that space that are very popular, my friend Neil Henry is blowing up on Instagram. He's got 1.3 million. He does brand endorsements. He's great. He's kick ass. But he even said on my last chat with him, he's glad that he put in the work first because he can back it up live. And I feel like, unfortunately, now a lot of people, again, are mimicking what they're seeing. But instead of doing the work, instead of studying the not only the masters and the people that have come before, but their work and create a solid foundation, they've got their blow-ups on their arms and they're jumping in a pool and they don't know how to swim, but they're trying to swim. And I see that happening more and more, younger and younger people just jumping right to that. They're focusing on, let me create a quote unquote brand. Let me be something. But then you strip away that stuff. And if you took away Instagram, YouTube, Facebook tomorrow, what would they be? They'd probably be not much. They'd probably be a little lost, which is real sad. So I feel like that is the quote unquote sad side of where things are right now in 2020.
In terms of plugs, where can people find you and where can people find more about what you're doing and what you're up to?
Yeah, so I would definitely encourage everybody out there. I do run a private magic group on Facebook. It's called All Things Magic. It is private, which means you have to enter in a little info to get in. It's not the biggest group on Facebook, nor do I want it to be. I've had a lot of people say it's their favorite group because there is no BS and drama, and I'm going to keep it that way. We're about 1,200 members now, which is cool. And we do meetups here in Vegas. So when people are coming to town, they're in the group. We actually all get together and meet up in town. It's a lot of fun. So that's a cool spot, All Things Magic on Facebook. You can keep up with me on Instagram, Dancy Magic. For the Murphy stuff, I do a live show with them every Wednesday at noon Pacific. It's called Unplugged. Now, you can find that on the Murphy's Facebook page or on the old YouTube channel. It is simulcast at the same time, so it's live on both platforms. I've got some great guests coming up soon. I've had some great guests in the past. Chatted with Shin Lim, Matt Franco, the two guys, the magicians that have won AGT, which is pretty cool. A lot of other great magicians and creators, so check those out. There's a good backlog of those too. So those are the places to kind of keep up with me. And honestly, I love what we do. So if you guys are out there, don't be a stranger, whether it's at a magic convention or online. I just love this stuff. So if you love it too, let's talk.
And I will say that you are quite vocal in comment sections of things online, which is lovely to see people who are in the world of magic deeply, also in the world of people's posts and what they're doing, and trying to engage and share some of that knowledge. The last and final thing is the take-home point. People have been listening to us talk about magic for quite a little while now, and we touched on a whole whack of different subjects. If people think back to this episode and take just one idea back from it, what would you hope that is?
That I really, really, really love magic, and I am doing everything I can to help inspire and to help guide and try to help the next generation to love this and to appreciate it as much as the generations that have come before. I think that the respect for the art form is something that we should all take a look back on and go, is this something I could do more? Is there something I mean, we're losing all these greats left and right. Let's enjoy them while we can. Let's enjoy this beautiful industry that we have and each other. And remember, at the end of the day, there's so much crap in the world. This is the stuff that's supposed to be fun. And hopefully we can keep it that way, you know?
Totally. Well, with that, Luke, thank you so much for spending the time with me. This was awesome and really deep into some parts of magic that we don't usually get to talk about. So thank you for being a part of this. And of course, a big thank you to everybody who joined us, listened, and learned a little bit. Thanks for being here, and we will see you all next Thursday. Peace. Well, there you go. I hope you liked the episode, and I hope, of course, that you learned something. The most important part is that you engage in this, engage in the episode, in the thoughts, and in the discourse, of course. So, if you had feelings, whether you agreed or disagreed to what Luke was saying, jump into the conversation. We're on Instagram, we're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, we're on Tinder. I'm just kidding about that. But we're online. Come indulge and be a part of magic. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you next Thursday.